All right, so we're going to break up 7.4 into two parts. We're going to introduce matrices today, what a matrix is, how it's written, how you identify it. And then we're going to solve or start solving on Tuesday. So a matrix, guys, is just a technique of you arrange numbers in a rectangular array, they say, but it's like a rectangle shape, and it forms a matrix. If you have more than one matrix, it's called a matrices. There's matrices, there's a couple of them. You define a matrix when they say, what are the dimensions of the matrix? They say m times n. What that means is how they're arranged. Each entry, if you guys notice, there's like an A, see A11, A sub 12, A sub 13. Each number has a different specific position. But the way that you name a matrix dimension is row by column. So write that down. You guys are going to say it's a row by column. Think about it as like an XY chart. If you're going to plot a point, which way do you go first? Left and right or up and down? Left to right, and then what? Up and down. So when you're telling me the dimensions of the matrix, you count the rows, which are left and right, by the columns, which are up and down. Rows are like in a movie theater. Columns are like the front of a house. Does that make sense? So when you have a question like this is as simple as it appears. It says determine the dimensions of the matrix. We'll count the rows. I always use my pencil. How many rows do you have here? 1. How many columns do you have? 1. This is a 1 by 1 matrix. Remember, you go row, left and right, by column, up and down. So B, draw. How many rows do I have? 1. It's a 1 by, how many columns do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4. So it's a 1 by 4. That makes sense? Okay, so the next one is a what? 2 by 2. Good. 2 by 2. This has got a special name, and we'll talk about later, but it's a square matrix. God bless you. Look at D. What's D? A 1, 2, 3 by what? By 2. It's rows by columns. So what is E? A 3 by 1. Perfect. Does that make sense? Okay. They all mean something. All the numbers mean something in their order placement, but the way that you tell the dimensions of the matrix is just like that. All right. This is how systems of equations translate into a matrix. All you're doing here is solving. You're going to solve a system of equations like we just did with that Gaussian elimination and all that stuff. But here we're going to use just the coefficients. You don't have to use the letters. And then at the end, you can plug the letters back in. So if you look, this is your system right here. Do you guys see the three systems? There's X, Y, Z, and a constant in the first, X, Y, Z, and a constant in the second, and X and a Z and a constant. There's no Y. So what do we fill in for Y? A 0, okay. So when you write the augmented matrix, when they ask for an augmented matrix, they want coefficients in the front, and then they want the answers of the constant in the back. It's both of them combined. It's the coefficients of all the letters, and then these 3 dots kind of symbolize an equal sign. But do you notice how the first row of this augmented matrix, 1 comes from the X, -4 comes from Y, +3 comes from Z, and then 5 is the answer, or the constant. You guys see that? So if you had a system of equations and they said write the augmented matrix, all they want you to do is write coefficients from all of the variables of the first one, and then 3 dots and your answer. Then the second, 3 dots, your answer. If they want just the coefficient matrix, what's inside the coefficient matrix? Just the coefficients of the variables. What's inside the constant matrix? Just the answers. Just the answers. This is just the coefficients. The constant matrix is just the answers. So this is more of a vocabulary lesson than anything right now. Because you're going to, in the first part of your web assignment, it says, tell me the dimensions. So you're going to say row by columns, And then they'll say, give me the augmented matrix, give me the coefficient matrix, just to make sure you guys know what you're talking about. So here, if they tell you to write the augmented matrix for the system of linear equations, first of all, what do they want when they want augmented? Just the coefficients, just the constants, or both of them? Both. Now look, how many different letters do you guys see in these examples?
2, 3.
3, right? Each equation only has 2, but there's 3 different ones. So the way that you would write your augmented matrix, in the first equation, what is the coefficient of x? 1. What is the coefficient of y? 3. What is the coefficient of z? There isn't one, so 0. Then we put dot, dot, dot. What's the answer? 9. If you guys don't like to write the dots, that's fine. I always just write a vertical line. So look at the second equation. What's the coefficient of x? 0. What's the coefficient of y? -1. What's the coefficient of z? 4. And then what's the answer? -2. The last equation. Excuse me. What is the coefficient of x? 1. Coefficient of y? 0. Coefficient of z? -5. And then what's your answer? 0. So you can write the 3 little dots if you want, or I just separate it with a vertical line. So there's your augmented matrix. This part right here are your coefficients, right? And then right here would be your constants or your answers. So if you now are going to tell me the dimensions of this augmented matrix, remember it's row by column. So there's 1, 2, 3 rows, correct? By how many columns? 1, 2, 3, 4. So this is a 3 by 4. Now, if they had 4 variables, then you would just have 4 coefficients for each variable. That's it. Questions? Everybody all right? All right. Isn't bad. All right, we're going to talk about this right now. We're not going to get into any solving, and then I'm going to be done. But when you are trying to solve a matrix, some of you may remember this from last year. You get your augmented matrix set up, meaning you get your coefficients all in there, and you get your answers all in there. And at the end, this is how you want your matrix to end up. You're going to do some addition and subtraction and multiplication to get stuff to cancel out. It's almost like a Sudoku puzzle, a little bit. But you'll get it to work out to where you can write your equations in row echelon form, meaning the last one will say z equals, the second equation will be x or y plus z equals, and then third will be x, y, z. So you're going to do stuff like if I looked from A to B, it tells you to multiply the first row by 1/2. So then you guys would, and again, we're just talking about this, you would like put 1/2 out here and we distribute through and then we add them down, which is like elimination. We're going to do stuff like that on Tuesday to where you're going to get it to work out to where your answer looks like this. And if I said to you guys, write this system of equations, how many variables do you see?
3.
There's 3. So we're going to call this the x column, the y column, and the z column. So you would write your answers. Your first equation would be x minus 2y plus 3z equals 9. You guys see that? And then it would be y plus 4 equals 7. And then z equals what?
1.
What does z equal? Z equals 2, right?
There's supposed to be a z next to the 3 and 4, right?
Oh, I didn't write it. I'm sorry. Yeah. And then now, would you be able to find the ordered triple? What would you do with z equals 2? You plug it in right there. So you have y plus 4 times 2 equals 7. So y plus 8 equals 7. Subtract 8 from both sides. And y equals what? -1. Then you take those two numbers and plug it into the top one. So x minus 2 times -1 plus 3 times 2 equals 9. So x plus 2 plus 6 equals 9. X plus 8 equals 9. So x equals what?
4.
And then how would I write my answer? So it'd be 1, -1, 2. So we're going to get to that point. You guys are going to get a system of equations. And instead of doing what we did yesterday on your quiz and a couple days before, where we solved, eliminated x's, then eliminated y's, and got all that. We're going to use matrices. And it's in a sense doing the exact same thing of solving an equation like you've done before. It's just a different way to do it with just the coefficients. Then you can then write your equations in row echelon form and then use back substitution. So we'll do that on Tuesday. If you want to go ahead and get a head start and try, you're more than welcome to, but we'll go through the whole solving process on Tuesday. Sound good? Okay.